thank you all for coming, first of all, on this beautiful day in Paso Robles, California, the Central Coast. Let me tell you a little bit about how this all started. It actually is a simple concept for Sculpterra Winery and Sculpture Garden. The concept was art lovers love wine, and wine lovers love art. And I went to Europe. I was 18 years old. It was in the 60s, and I was traveling around Europe, and I came to Oslo, Norway. And in Oslo, Norway, I found a place called Gustav Vigeland Park, Frogner Park, or Gustav Vigeland Park. And what had happened in the 20s, 1920, is there was a sculptor named Gustav Vigeland. And he's not very well known in the United States, but he's well known in Europe. He's a phenomenal sculptor. And he made a deal with the city of Oslo. He said, I'll give you all of my sculptures for free. All of them. But you have to build me a studio. You have to pay me a stipend and pay for my materials. And all of my sculptures will be yours. And I walked around that park, absolutely magnificent, just beautiful, beautiful sculptures. You've probably seen some of them, you just didn't know who did it. And this was a magnificent sculpture garden. And I realized from studying art and seeing the sculpture garden that the problem that an artist has is, do I paint or do I sculpt what I want? Or do I sculpt or paint what sells? And here that was a situation with Gustav Vigeland. He could do anything he wanted, and he created masterpieces. In 2007, we opened this place up. We designed the grounds, and I decided we're going to have all kinds of art. And we had John Jagger's beautiful sculpture. He wanted to put his cat, the granite cat out front. And I actually asked him, I said, John, well, why do you want that to be out front? He said, because that's my masterpiece. Now, how do you argue with an artist that says that's what his masterpiece was? So that's why that granite cat is out front. That wasn't actually my favorite. My favorite was the cat on the tree, which we have in the front as well. I don't know if you understand what you're looking at here. This is kind of a funky thing, but you're supposed to be inside, even though you're outside. You're inside, looking outside through a window. And on this side, what we decided to do is paint a mural. And this is a mural of the legacy of California wine. If you go and look at the mural, and there's explanations on the wall, it's old world designs from Florence, and then you see the conquistadors coming to the New World. Then you see the Franciscan friars who put up the missions. Missions were really hotels. And if you wonder why they're 30 miles apart all up and down California is you could ride your horse for 30 miles in a day. So that's how people could stay there. So we had the conquistadors coming, then we had the mission days, and then after that we had the pioneers coming, and with the pioneers, with the cowboys, and after that you could look on the wall, you can see we have the hot springs, because that was very famous in Paso Robles. In fact, the town was called Springs at one time, and then at one time we had a big almond industry, so we have almonds on the wall as well. And then a man named Paderewski came here. I don't know if you know who he is. Most of you from Paso Robles do. Paderewski was the finest pianist in the 1900s in the world, and he had arthritis of his hands. And he heard that there were hot springs and mud baths in Paso Robles, and he came here because of his hands to help cure his arthritis. And he fell in love with Paso Robles. He planted Zinfandel grapes, which were made at York Mountain Winery, and that's one of the ways the wine industry started. So we have his picture on the wall as well. And then the train came into town about 1840, and at that time, that's really what developed the city. They sold lots. People came from San Francisco by the train, and the city was developing. Now, I don't know if you know this, but one of the founders of the city who laid out the city was named Drury James. He was the uncle of Jesse James. Now, tradition says, and maybe some of the ladies in the Historical Society will tell me if this is the truth or not, but tradition says that Jesse James came here with some shotgun wounds to also be in the hot springs to cure his wounds. So here we have Paderewski, who's here because he's the greatest pianist, and we have Jesse James, an outlaw, coming here as well. I kind of like that story. Maybe it's not true. I think it's true, and I want it to be true. So anyway. All these photographs on this wall are 8 feet long by 4 feet high. If you look closely, what this is supposed to represent is an album. a historical album of Paso Robles. You remember the old albums we used to have before the digital world and people took away photographs? We used to take our photographs, put them in an album, and we had these little four corners where we put our pictures. Well, Bob made those four corners out of metal, and that's what that's supposed to represent. And these are pages of an album. These are pages of a book. And the first alcove is the streets of Paso Robles. The second one is the cowboys and the pioneers. The third one is the industry of Paso Robles. Very, very interesting. The fourth one was the hot springs and the mud bath. The fifth one was Camp Roberts. And then the sixth one is the old wineries and some of their techniques, and then the new wineries. Everything's in black and white, except for the new wineries, which is, of course, in color, and that's my winery, Sculpterra Winery, sorry to say. I put that in there. Anyway, and on the other side, if you actually look at the other side of the new wineries, it shows you harvesting pistachios, which we do as well. So I hope you enjoy all this. I hope you enjoy the wine. I hope you enjoy the art. I hope you enjoy the history, and I really appreciate all of you coming.